Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Counterparts. I am John Henry Soto. And please settle down, folks. Settle down. And I'm here with, as always, with Mr. George Batista in the house, as always.
And you know why they're screaming?
Why?
Because of the guests that we're having on today.
That's right. That's right. And they should be screaming because we got very, very talented band out of New Jersey. I've known some of these guys for quite some time. I sort of saw them grow up. I remember holding them in my arms and just.
Ladies and gentlemen, the E Street Band.
Yeah. And Justin Bieber. But I'm very excited to have them here. So why don't we just bring them on and start talking about music, George? What do you say?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Counterparts Break Time.
Listen. These guys.
Still jamming intro music here.
We're still jamming to your intro music, man. That was great.
Yes, I love that music. Absolutely.
Thank you for having us on. Good evening, everybody. We are Break Time, and we are a great time. It's such a pleasure to be here. Now, John, think about this.
Yes.
The last time that we were on one of your shows was all the way back in May of last year, and Break Time was a duo looking for two new band members so we could play our music live. And we were releasing our debut track in about 2 months' time, Rock and Roll Refugee, which is our most streamed song. Can you believe that?
Wow, nice.
I had no idea it was that long. And back then I was in New Jersey, right? I was before my move to Nashville. Wow. Yeah, I mean, just on a personal note, like I saw Sean and performing on a video on Facebook in front of a church. That was my first time seeing Sean. It was like on Facebook page, and I think it was at Grace Lutheran, I believe. And you were on the lawn, and I saw them playing. I had a really good feeling that this was just good people, like it was just a good ensemble that was there. And so I just kept following you, and then I think you were performing at one of the somewhere, I can't remember where.
It was the Maris Carnival.
Carnival,
2019.
2019. So I grabbed my camera and I said, "Let me head over there," and I met Sean and Tommy, and the rest is history. I was really, really impressed with you guys, not just the musical talent, but the way you communicate, the passion that you have behind also the presentation that you guys put out. You guys are always dressed like you guys have like an actual show. You do an actual performance, and I was very impressed at at such a young age, because I think Sean is like 12, and I think Tommy is 9. Douglas, he's actually still not born. He's in the process of being born. He's still in the womb. That's how young these guys are. But exactly. But no, you guys are so young, and it just boggles my mind that you guys have it all together. And so, Sean, I want you to take a minute. I want you to introduce your newest member, and then let's hear from Doug afterwards, and let's see what we got going on.
Yes, I would like to introduce our newest band member, me. I'd like to introduce Doug.
Dougie.
Doug joined the band back in September of last year, and we've never been the same since, in the best connotation possible. It's been harmonious in both the figurative and the literal sense. He's opened up so many possibilities to us, and it's been an awesome ride so far with you and the band, Doug. So we're happy to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah.
My cat's just decided it wants to just bother me, but all good.
Now hopefully awesome. Doug thinks the same of us.
Of course, of course, man. Of course.
So Doug, how did you even come about? How did they find you?
So I've been following their page for a couple of years before that. I've seen them kind of progress, and one day in September, they reached out to me, And I never really thought, like, I wasn't really in like the frame of mind of like, hey, like, you know, like playing in a band or anything. You know, I used to kind of just do like my own kind of independent thing.
Mhm.
And they were like, here, we have this opportunity. Like, we were looking for somebody, a guitarist and a singer. And I'm a guitarist and I sing. So it was like a perfect fit. And, you know, the rest is history. It was just one little Instagram DM, and the rest is history.
That's amazing. And one of the also challenging part is, and Sean and I have talked about this because Sean and I would do like therapy sessions like late at night on StreamYard. But the style of music that you know, it's not easy to just go out and find somebody who's young and also interested in kind of like almost like recreating with a new vibe this classic music. You know,
Yeah. It's almost like you're rediscovering it
correct.
again. Yes.
Correct.
It's what it feels like.
So were you definitely into that style as well? Like you were.
So I'm very open-minded when it comes to different like genres of music. I was a big classic rock fan in high school. Like I was like one of the kids. I'd walk around with like a little CD like Walkman like in high school, like playing CDs like throughout whole albums and stuff like that, like Zeppelin, like, you know, like all that. So
yeah,
it was a perfect fit. It was. I'm definitely into that type of music.
Oh, that's so cool. So I want to, George, you had a question?
No, I was just going to say that it's and obviously because it reminds me a little bit of us, right? When we especially hooked up with Dave and our group, and that we just had that perfect fit.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that. But it was not only musically, but it was just personality as well. The personalities fit, and we gelled very, very well. So you can see that, you know, even just, you know, I mean, I've spoken to Sean before, but even just meeting you could tell right away that the personalities even gel just here on the screen. You can tell.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. I mean, George and I have, you know, stories of that, you know, just music was fine, you know, but that personality thing is such a huge element of a band dynamic, you know. So Sean, tell us a little bit about like what were you looking for? Because I know you and I, we've had a lot of discussions about the leverage that you have, you know what I mean? And I was always telling Sean, I was like, look, you have a rehearsal space, right? That's pretty big. You know, a lot of places don't have, a lot of musicians don't have that space. You know, you have the space, you have the songs, you have the recording equipment, you have the even the gigging equipment. So there's a lot to offer as far, but that's just one aspect of it. You know, you also have to find somebody that gels personality wise. What kind of personality, what were you looking for that was like the most important thing, other than obviously they can, you know, strum a D chord, but
Well, several aspects that I was looking for was somebody who had a drive to be the best, not only do right by the band, but be the best version of themselves. Somebody who was open-minded to the music. It didn't have to be their number one like form of music that they enjoyed, but it helps to have a common vision in that sense. So there's less clashing of styles and ideas and more meshing and collaboration in that sense. Yeah. And I was also looking for somebody who would be loyal and somebody that I could trust, because the way that I manage the band is it's by two tenets. The first one is always to be honest with me, never lie to me, and second, don't embarrass me. And with the lineup that we have now, I've never been embarrassed, I've never been lied to, and everything has been running well, because it takes a lot of effort and time to build that rapport and that trust with somebody, because a band is a marriage. Yeah. So, and I've been through a lot of instances of band members, you know, betraying that trust. So I was on very like high alert and high guard, and Doug's just been checking all the boxes off ever since he's joined the band in September. So yeah. I feel vindicated, and I feel validated for taking that initiative. I was actually praying and like checking the text over. It was like a novel that I sent to him. And I was just so happy when he said yes.
That's so cool. I'm surprised, Doug, you didn't think he was like a mental patient, like writing. Like,
You know,
he wrote me like a 4-page text. I didn't even know it can go that much.
well, I like to read, so you know.
And Sean is very smart and very poetic.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. He's honestly, after getting to know Sean for like the past like 4 or 5 months, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. Honestly.
He definitely, when I met him, he's definitely one of the smartest people. You just ask him, he'll tell you.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is true.
And everybody knows it.
A really old
Nice.
what's his name? Don Rickles joke. So I wanted to actually talk to Tommy, because Tommy, we're guitar players, and you got a guitar player coming in.
This guy, man.
Yeah, and you were the sole guitar. Well, you've been actually in the group originally, but you were the sole guitar player for a little bit, right? And do you feel a little bit more like, I remember when Dave came into our band as the other guitarist, it took such a weight off of me as far as like having to rhythm and then lead and all that stuff. How did that go with you? Did you feel a relief of some sort?
Yeah, I was happy to, when we got Doug into the band, he could like, play chords, and all that kind of stuff. And he does do some lead as well, in certain songs, what we do now. But I
can't do it as well as you, buddy. I cannot do it as well as you.
Well, yeah. It is what it is, I guess. But, but I just feel like I was more inspired, like to put out more of myself when I'm playing live, like doing different licks, doing like different solos, and really trying to experiment with different techniques and stuff when I play live, more than I ever have before, like when I first joined the band. And Sean could attest to this. Every time we played, I always put on like a spectacular show, running around the place and just going nuts.
He's got all those rock band moves.
Yeah. Anything you think of, I got it. I can do it pretty much now.
He was playing Pride and Joy, like just like circling on the floor.
Yeah. I know. I remember
just simply laying down the floor one time too, just like
Nice.
just doing everything I could to put on a show. So
yeah, and I remember when you guys picked Pride and Joy as one of your tracks, I was like, wow, that's saying something. You know what I mean? That's like saying something.
And I gotta be honest, like at first I was kind of like nervous to play that one.
Of course,
like
yeah,
it's Stevie Ray Vaughan. I don't want to mess it up. So
right. But it does take it takes balls, I guess you would say, just to do something like that. I remember, I think we did once a Clapton number.
Yeah,
we did a Clapton number, and
yep.
It was difficult for us because the only real Clapton lovers in the band was just me and George. So no one. I think Dave kind of liked Clapton, but he wasn't like fully into that. They were more into like U2 and.
Right. We did a U2 cover as well, if I remember correctly. We did one, but we really didn't do a lot of covers like you guys do, mixture of covers and that type of thing. But we didn't really, if we did 1 or 2 covers, that was a lot for us,
Yeah, in New York, it was different back in the days. It was different where you had in these clubs, you were expected to not really do covers. They didn't really want you to do covers, which when I came to New Jersey, it was like, well, they didn't want you to do originals.
Yeah.
And I always found that like fascinating. Like it's like here in Nashville, they want you to do covers on Broadway, on the main Broadway strip.
Mm-hmm.
That you go in there, you're gonna hear a lot of covers. But when you go to the smaller venues outside of the main Broadway strip, they want originals. They want to hear. This is a songwriting town. So that's really what I was always telling Sean about, and we're going to talk about songwriting a little bit, was the early on when you were doing a lot of the covers, you remember our conversation. I was just telling you, you have to write your own stuff. That's really the most important thing you guys need to focus on and put out a record. It doesn't have to be the best, and you guys put out a really good one as your first, but just put out something, yeah. So how are you guys writing now? Are you guys writing as a unit, or Sean, do you still write in your cave and then bring it up from the dungeon or wherever you write?
In his Sean cave, yes.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mixture. Like I feel pretty independent that I'm confident that I can write a song at like 2 a.m. and just like have it done and bring it to the guys like in full form and play it for them, and they'll know what to do, like, and we'll arrange it from there. But I also feel more confident now that I have two people that I can bounce ideas off of. So it's a mixture. Like now we're getting more into being spontaneous and seeing what happens in the studio with three minds as one, which worked out pretty well for our latest single, which is the first Lupo Manuel original that was penned, called Mastermind.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Doug, do you write, is that you constantly write, or is that like a new thing?
I've been writing since like I was in high school. So I've been writing from, I used to write more acoustic stuff, like more singer-songwriter kind of vibes. And then like as I learned how to like, because I set up a little bit of like a studio in my room, like a little bit, just the bare bones, just to get stuff down if I had ideas and stuff. I started venturing more into like rock and stuff, and like like alternative, like kind of that vibe. But yeah, I've definitely been writing for a while. So, and then seeing somebody who can write as good as Sean, and like having someone to bounce the ideas off, like Mastermind was just like, I came up with something and then he came up with something, and we kind of like put it together, and it was really fun. Like it was so much fun.
Yeah, we fleshed it out in about a half hour, and then like I made some adjustments like over about a week's time, and then we reconvened and it was done. So
and that's actually the way it's supposed to be, right, George?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's cool because, and I'm assuming that when Doug came on board, it kind of opened you guys up to many more possibilities, right? Because like, and again, going back to the way we were when we brought Dave in, and all of a sudden there was textures and colors and things that were added on that we really didn't have before. So all of us, it really opened us up to a whole new thing, which was great.
Yeah, it changed the music. It didn't change. No, it did kind of evolved it very quickly.
It did evolve,
into something different.
Yes.
And I think, unfortunately, we, the story with Dave, we lost Dave tragically, but he was a very, very creative rhythm player. And those textures that you're talking about, he was big into the edge, like he loved the edge.
Right.
So you can hear how we evolved into what we would have become was, what was that song that we did? Deviltry, I think it was called. Devil.
There was Deviltry.
So there's a live recording at a club that we did, and somebody recorded it, and that kind of like shows where we were gonna go. It had really some great lines and stuff like that. So when you bring somebody in, and we want to talk about the other member who's not here, if you guys want to mention that as well. But when you bring somebody in with like Doug has like a lot of different styles too. He's coming in with like a whole bunch of a palette, of different colors and everything. How does that work with your songwriting now, Sean? When you're writing, did you have different ideas now, or did it open up, or are you pissed?
You can't do that when I'm sipping, man. Come on. You set me up for failure.
Oh, sorry.
That was good. I was good on that.
There's so many possibilities that I'm pissed that Doug's in the band now.
I have so many great things happening.
I have to really critically think now about what would be the best possibility. But before, I just had it, decided. But now that Doug's here, I gotta.
Yeah, you gotta figure it out.
It's a lot more experimentation. Love you, Doug.
So
back end of company.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah. So what about a drummer? So you guys have a
Peter.
drummer?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that was
that was the biggest one that evolved for a while.
I remember, and having been, I guess, since 2019, it feels like longer, doesn't it, Sean? It
feels like
it feels a lot longer.
Years ago, to be honest.
I know, but you went through, at least that I know of, at least 3 drummers that I know of. You probably went a couple more, maybe, but some that I don't know about. But so tell us a little bit about this gentleman.
Well, at the start of the new year, our last drummer, who is a good friend of ours from NJCU, Matt. Shout out to you, Matty Boy Blue.
We love you, Maddie.
Oh,
We
yeah.
love you.
Matt.
Yeah, he's great.
He volunteered. He's such a good friend. He volunteered his time all the way from May until the end of the year. Originally, he was supposed to end his tenure with us in October, but we couldn't find anybody until January. So he extended his time so generously. So again, thank you, Matt.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt.
While we were searching for a drummer, we found through some circles at NJCU that I'm a part of, we found a very awesome, dedicated, play till his hands bleed drummer named Peter, and he's our guy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Man,
He's very skilled in jazz, and he brings a different flavor to our sound that we really wanted. Like Matt is an awesome drummer. He really specializes at banging the drums really hard and being loud and proud.
Yeah.
But Peter has this finesse and his own aura to him that opens up the possibilities, just like Doug's inclusion in the band did, like soloing, for example.
Yeah.
We have a few huge moments planned for Peter at our next show, and shows in the future that it only increases the value of the product for the fans, and that's what it's all about. Like we say, break time is a great time. So that's the ultimate goal: having everybody leave our shows having a great time or not coming at all. But please do come.
but please.
Yeah. Well, when you were initially looking for drummers, there's something specifically you're looking for, or like what he has, is that what you were really specifically looking for?
We were very, very picky because, to be honest, we were spoiled at the time back in 2019 to 2020 with our original drummer Joey. We love you, Joey. He had
a great
wide,
drummer.
yeah. He's very masterful and has his own wide array of skills, and he's so technical, and all the power to him. Shout out to you, Joey. So we wanted to get somebody in the mold of Joey, but not Joey,
Gotcha.
like his own person.
Okay.
And we wanted somebody just like who fit the mold of Doug, somebody who was loyal, somebody who I can trust, and somebody who was nearby too. And it helps that he isn't too far away. So, and everybody's been consistent, including Peter. Everybody's had perfect attendance. We've never had any issues with explaining practice is mandatory, guys. So he's very reliable, and we appreciate his contribution to the band up in this point.
That's awesome. That's great. You mentioned trust a couple of times. Who hurt you, Sean?
So let's talk about it. Let's unpack this.
It all happened when I was born.
Wow.
Oh, that's far back. Huh? So
12 days ago.
yeah. So do you guys now, because it's so important, and George and I, we've talked hours and hours about the rehearsal part of it. Like rehearsal sometimes it's not where you want to be, but it's where you have to be, right? Because it's like we want to play, and kind of forget that rehearsal is the most important time that you're going to spend, because it's going to showcase on stage. So, and George and I were like obsessive. I mean, George and I would literally, I would show up at he had his dad had like a space, and he had like a little studio set up in downstairs. And I would show up there like around 10:30, 11 a.m. like on a Saturday, and I wouldn't leave there till like 10 p.m. And we would be playing through the whole time. And sometimes it was just me and George. People wouldn't even come.
Yeah.
No one else. But there was this improvement that we did in a very short amount of time, and not just improvement as individuals, but improvement as like the tightness that you need in a band. You know what I mean? I mean, that is like I see bands here in Nashville, and I see a lot of great bands, and I usually stream them right now because a lot of them are streaming. And the individual musicianships are great, but they're not tight. You know, they're just not tight because they're each doing their own thing. They don't rehearse a lot. Here, you just kind of show up on stage and just play with whoever is on stage at that point. It's kind of, there's a lot of that going on. But the bands that are really, really tight, do you guys talk a lot about that? You know, about making sure that cymbal doesn't ring out
Yeah.
at the end. You know, if
I
we're
think
gonna,
that's yeah. So we run like a couple songs. I know like last week when we were having rehearsals, we would just be running the same song like over and over again, like because we want it to sound a specific way. We need this specific rhythm. We need a specific like cutoff or something. Like we want it to be tight, like rehearsed, like if it was as if it was a show. Right. So yeah, we've been like we are very attentive to detail in that way, so that we sound as uniform as we can.
That's awesome. That's great.
Do you guys, one of the things that John and I had always had conversations of when we were playing was, like John said, that we got better and we were obsessed with getting better. But when we got into the band, especially the last band we're in, Glass of No, we still had that mentality of getting better as musicians, even, you know, because I think even getting better, you know, on our own as musicians is just going to make us that much better when we get together. Right. So do you guys have that mentality as well? So when you're not together, when you're alone, you're still, you know, bringing your craft up to another level?
I can attest that I am ruthlessly devoted to that pursuit. Like if I can improve myself at 4 a.m. by writing another song out like entirely and just spending the night doing that, I will do that. Tommy, when it comes to scales and
guitar
your
playing,
runs,
yes,
I'm always trying to, you know, look for different scales and different techniques. Whatever it is, I'll just make me a better guitarist when I'm writing songs myself, or just playing one of Sean's or Doug's songs, or just any song for that matter. When we play live, you know, just to make sure it's not only tight, but it actually sounds musical and, you know, really, you know, good.
Yeah, that's one of the, well, with Tommy, I can attest that I saw the improvement myself from 2019 to the show I saw on you guys. The incredible improvement, and all you guys just great stuff. One thing I wanted to also talk a little bit about was the stage presence. You know, like there's so many different elements to performing. It's not just the technical. Obviously, you have to be tight. But there's also this stage persona. There's banter, right? And you know, and that's one of the things that really a lot of musicians really suck at, because you don't practice it. You know, they're not thinking with like, well, hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Okay, you know, or have some kind of repertoire between you guys. You know. Or rapport that you can show to everyone. Not repertoire, I don't know what I'm talking about, but show some kind of you guys in what's the word I'm trying to say? Some banter that you guys actually rehearse, or is it you guys still fly off the cuff?
I think it's like everything. It's a good mixture. We like to. It's important, we think, to plan our moments during the show. So everybody gets something that they'll remember from it. But on the same token, if adjustments need to be made, like on the cuff, and you need to go off of the script a little bit, it's important to be your genuine self on stage too. Right. You can't be too technical with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're like a little. Like I remember in our show in December, we had some stuff like kind of planned out, like certain songs in our set list, we'd have it like planned out, and then outside of that, it's what Sean said, like, you know, being our authentic selves and just kind of playing the crowd a little bit, you know, like kind of feeling it out.
You don't want to be up there and be like, so hey Tommy, I heard that you had an amazing weekend.
That's like right off your head.
And not just that. Yeah.
Did you ever have one of
Tommy, you wrote another song? ?
Yeah. Did you ever have those times where you're on the stage and just something completely magical happens not completely unplanned, that you're all going to remember for years later, where you're like, remember that time when we played and we hit those notes, or we hit this exactly, it's an amazing feeling. I'm sure you guys have had that.
I have 2 ideas, and they're both relating to Tommy and the same song.
Oh.
The first one Doug wasn't around for, but that was on the rooftop show that we did back in July. That was when we played Pride and Joy.
Oh,
Go figure.
Nice.
And Tommy was just we have a wireless guitar system, so he was just running all over the place.
And then at one point I just literally just lay down and just play whatever's coming to my brain at the moment. I'm just like shredding away on the ground. And I don't know what made me do it, but I just okay, I'll just lay down,
and all the girls were hot for it.
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah.
There's
From what I'm told.
Isn't there a video of that somewhere?
I don't look at us cheering.
Yeah, we actually have a video of that.
Yeah,
I saw a lot of videos. From multiple people.
We have tons of content that hasn't been posted yet, but that's scheduled. And the other Tam moment, as I would like to call it, was during our recent show back in December at Butero. When we got to his verse, he just
I was
just explosive.
Yeah.
Doug can probably describe it better than me.
Yeah, so we would practice. Like Pride and Joy was one of the first songs we learned. So we've been playing it since September, right? So like every practice leading up to every practice. So when Tommy because we each split a verse in that song, and we each split up the verses. So like we each get like our little our little time to sing, and every practice, Tommy would kind of be a little subdued when he's singing. Like, I don't know if it was saving his voice or just trying to figure, but so our last show, we play through the entire set, and we're on a roll, we're feeling good. And it comes to the last song, and Tommy's verse comes, and he starts belting it out.
I mean, it might have been
raspy voice. It was awesome. It was awesome. I looked at him. I was like, okay, let's go.
I mean,
it was that kind of moment.
I mean, going back to we were feeling good by that time. We were coming up to the last few songs.
Yeah, we were 4 hours.
That was probably one huge reason why I was just feeling so good. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just do it so differently than I've ever done.
And it was awesome. And it was great.
I don't even know how, but I just.
That's so great.
The girls love Tam. Doug has receipts.
So I wanted to talk to you guys about the business side of things. The business of music post COVID. I know that things are slowly opening up, and there's just a lot more. It seems like there's a lot more need right now for music and art and beauty and than ever before. How are you guys using your social media presence and your content and stuff on Spotify, and what do you guys have a strategy on that, or you just kind of just have fun? Strategy can be fun too, John.
well, we actually had our first ever annual meeting back in January where we outlined a lot of different goals and earmarked money towards those goals, since we are actually an established LLC. So we're very formal in our operations.
Good.
I'm actually going to punt to Doug pop quiz to see if you remember some of those.
I hate that.
Well, with our social media, we introduced a couple things we started posting every day. We'd have 3 different strategies of posting, a clip of a show, at least for the first couple months of the year, and then obviously I think we're gonna reconvene and figure it out. But we post a clip from we take a lot of we've taken a lot of pictures. We our good friend Vito, Sean's best friend, and was very nice to take some photography during our practices. So we have a lot of that stuff, and Sean likes to meme it up a little bit, so he adds his little
Yeah.
flair. And if our goal is to just like make hopefully when it sees your feed, like you crack a little smile, and
Right.
you like it's not all like it's just if it could take 2 seconds away from you and just like make it chuckle a little bit or how like that, then
we want to be accessible to everybody. We don't want to be something you just see on a screen and you don't know what the work that goes into it. So we're very transparent. We've been posting audio clips of some of our sessions and funny moments from our sessions. Like Doug said, we post pictures while we're practicing, post pictures of our show. We want everybody to get to know us, and we want to get to know everybody at the same time. We don't want to just be, oh, that's break time. Okay. And
right. Right. I mean, it's so difficult because social media can be so corny for bands now because we've been so conditioned to knowing. I mean, Led Zeppelin was standing in the same positions that bands are standing today in front of the cameras like this.
Yeah.
Real tough, and their hats are down. They're like, I just crack up whenever I see that because I'm just like, these guys are probably not that serious. They're having fun, and that's one of the things that I always loved about the Beatles was that they didn't really, and if there's any group that can take themselves seriously is the Beatles, but they never really did. They had fun, they were making jokes, they were cracking jokes, they were playing with the media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's so important to really have that lighthearted approach to social media. So this way, like you said, Sean, it's more accessible, and next time they see something, they're going to pay attention to it because it didn't threaten them in any way. It wasn't serious, it was something that was fun, and I think that's a really, really good, smart approach.
Break time's a great time.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
So what do you guys have planned? I want to talk a little bit about old music, new music, an article that we were talking about a little bit. George and I did a show on it. But I want to talk a little bit about that. But what are you guys, tell me about your new record. Tell me about your next gig.
Well, I'll start with the record. We're releasing our debut EP entitled BreakTime Great Times.
Great time.
Volume 1. And it's jam-packed. It's an EP and more because we're jam-packing a ton of value into this. It's 8 new break time songs, and we're doing remasters of the 5 break time singles that we released in 2021. So it's a huge value. It's all new stuff, plus better quality sound, and that's what we want to project. That's the break time great time for you.
That's great.
Awesome.
And what do you guys have coming up as far as gigs?
And our next show is it was actually Mastermind did by Doug. It's our return show to Butero on
nice.
March 5th.
March 5th
at 8 p.m. We're playing another 4-hour show with 1 hour plus of break time originals, both released and unreleased. So if you want to get the inside scoop on all things break time,
be there.
Be there, Butero, 184 Broadway.
That's so
March
great.
5th.
Nice.
And we talked about, Sean, about getting like a residency somewhere, like in some place that you would play once a month. It looks like that could be it because you played there how many times now?
This is our second time now.
Oh, is it? Okay, I thought it was more. Okay.
Yeah.
It's an awesome venue.
It is. And then there's the B-22 place. I don't know if you guys are gonna play there again. The rooftop place, because that seemed like a cool. That looked great on the film. It was a great show.
I have tons of ideas, so I'm definitely going to be reaching out to B-22 fairly soon, so we get that planned.
Awesome. Cool. So we're going to talk a little bit. We're almost at the 40-minute mark, but I want to kind of talk a little bit about this because this is actually a interesting conversation. So there was an article in The Atlantic, and it was covered by Rick Beato, who's on YouTube. He's an educator on YouTube. He's an awesome YouTube guy, very smart guy. So he did this article about how these on Spotify, the 70% of the songs, I think it was like 72% of the music that's being played on Spotify is old music.
Okay.
All the new music seems to come in and dissipate just as fast as it came in. And there's this fear that new music is not just going to be gone, And so what are your takes on that? And we'll go individually. You guys love the classics, but you guys are young and you guys have you want to bring in new flavors to it as well, and kind of like almost like what Doug said, kind of rediscover these songs and revamp them again, and in a I don't mean the covers, I mean the actual style, the genre, right? So what do you guys think about that as far as like that style of music being so popular now? I mean, just anything that's from the 70s, 80s, and 90s is way more popular than anything that just came out last week.
Yeah.
I mean, that is kind of crazy.
Yeah. So I don't really hate new music, right? So
I don't either.
No, yeah, which is like
weird. It's kind of a weird thing that the statistics are just weird on that.
It's interesting because like the stuff that a lot of people listen to, like the popular the songs that go popular, like mainstream.
Right.
It's very formulaic, right? So like you can tell like it's very processed and like very like there's like a team. There's like a team behind it, right? It's very
right.
And like when you listen to the older stuff, you can just tell like you're not going to hear like when the songs that people listen to over and over again from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you don't hear songs like them again. Like you don't it doesn't sound remotely the same.
Right.
It doesn't like, whereas like if you like a newer like poppy hit, like you could tell like, oh, by the way the person sings it, or like who the person is, like, oh, it's like their own little flair, but it's kind of rehashing the same formula, maybe a little twist, maybe a little something here.
Yeah.
But when it comes to new music, there is a lot of good stuff that just goes relatively under the radar. Like there's been a really big kind of like surf rocky revival lately. Like in like at least like in like the past like couple of years, or like it's a very like like surf rocky like 60 70 sound. Sure. Maybe not like maybe a little less like harmonic, but it's still like that kind of sound, which I'm really into. So like there's stuff if you really dig and find it, like that's why I love it. Yeah.
But that's the thing, you got to dig for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot
you
of
would think they would want us to, you think they push the like the stuff a little bit more love in it. But
yeah, I think part of the issue is that these record companies have lost the ability to nurture talent. That's what used to happen back in the day. Somebody would come in, their first record might not be the greatest, but it was good enough. And the second one, it's always that sophomore huge hit, right? Or even the third album sometimes. But that investment of time is just not happening anymore. As a matter of fact, I saw a thing with, again, Rick Beato. I watch a lot of Rick Beato videos. But he did a thing where he went on the top 10 songs that were out now, the top 10 popular. I don't know. Did you see that, Tommy?
Yeah, I think I've seen. I don't know how many he did, but I think I've seen at least one of them. If he did more than one, but
yeah, I think he did maybe 5 or 10 or what. I don't remember what it was, but it was just those top songs that were. Some of them were nominated for Grammys, and he pointed out one of them, and I won't mention the artist because it's a very famous artist, and no disrespect to the artist, himself, but he mentioned how poorly the production was on, like the vocals were horrible. He was, and this is a producer, this is a guy who has a tremendous ear, for music. And I was blown away by some of the level. It seemed like every song started with the same kind of that trap rhythm thing that comes in with like, and it has this kind of vibe, and then the next song comes on and goes, all right, this is the new one, but it goes,
it's like it's the same thing.
It's almost from the same album, like it's like a concept album or something that it's all from, and they're all different artists.
Yeah, I feel like when somebody really sets a trend, it really gets worn out over time. Like the first time that trend comes to light, it's awesome. Like it's a really cool experience, and then
Yeah.
over time it's just worn and worn and worn, and everybody's doing it. I feel like it's like a copycat kind of game
It
right
definitely
now.
is, and I think it's the record company's laziness that it's just like it's much easier to find somebody that looks like this person and give them a song that sounds like that song because this guy did a million downloads. This guy is going to do a million downloads too, and that becomes the shame and the embarrassment of the music industry overall, that they're just not investing. And it's not even the music industry. Scratch that. The music industry has nothing to do with that. It's these record companies, people that make money. We're the music industry, right? We're the ones making music and listening to it and consuming music. The music industry is within the people, not necessarily with the companies. But the companies are spending their money on a sure thing. It's almost like what Hollywood is doing. Marvel movie, it's going to make a lot of money, and that character study film is not going to make as much money. So they're going to invest it to where they know that they can get top dollars on.
Yeah.
Do you see, but moving forward, do you see, I think there's going to be another revolution of music. I think we're seeing it already. Like Doug was talking about, there is great music out there, and it is going to get out because people are going to get tired of this nonsense with what's happening on Spotify, and artists are becoming way more independent today than ever before. You don't need a record company anymore, right? You can get your audience off of TikTok and Instagram and all that, and really create an actual income source, selling your music and touring. And then you outsource a touring company, that helps you with the tour, and you outsource all these things, the merchandising, all that stuff. What do you guys think, about the future, the near future?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think too many musicians, like on the ground level, are looking at what they do through a myopic lens. Like in today's industry, you can't only be a musician. You're not just a musician. BreakTime, I consider BreakTime to be a band, a brand, a production company, and so on and so forth. There's so many other facets that we have to handle for ourselves, and we know how to do so. It takes approaching it from a wider view. A wider view. Think of it more than just the music. The music is very important, and you should spend your time on making your art and selling it. But there's so much more involved that musicians need to do in our current industry to make it. And if they're up to the task of doing so, like BreakTime, the future will be ensured for all musicians of all levels, up to the record labels. Like it used to be that getting a label, a record deal, was the be all end all, and it's just not that way anymore. And if you feel dependent on that, you got to shake yourself out of it. You need to empower yourself more than giving that power away to the executives that are more so prioritizing a safe bet with the same 2-3 teams that write songs for everybody.
Yeah.
They don't have an A&R people anymore. They want somebody who's developed.
That's true.
The onus is on the musician. And with the technology that's out there today too, the music industry is very democratized. But it's a double-edged sword too. There's a lot of good musicians, but there's also a lot of bad musicians. And like Doug said, you have to really dig through music to find the vibe that you like. And it's so much effort on the part of the listeners that you have to make enough noise to get through the noise that's already there.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's about taking initiative, I think. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you. One thing is, you said it's so true. Like, I want to get your idea on this because John and I were talking about this on the last show that we did on this. Was I said that back in those days, the Eagles, the Zeppelins, the Eric Claptons, and those days, there was an element of paying your dues And there was an element of where you had to be so creative because there was so much competition. There was no social media. There was no, I could be on TikTok and get 1,000 followers and, that type of thing. So these guys had an element of working hard to create these melodies, to create these albums, because they knew that there was these other bands, the British Invasion and all these things that were right behind them. Right.
Yeah.
And so it forced them to be extremely creative at that time. And this is where we hear all that stuff, right? Whereas of now, just like, again, there are a lot of good bands out there, but the element is completely different. Now, like you said, there's no AR people. You can get all these YouTube people and your channel can explode and you can become huge just by that, right? And versus, so you don't have that. There's a little bit of there's a different work ethic now than there is back in those days. What are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, I like the way I see it. Like, I feel like right now there's tons and tons of bands that are very, very good and do probably write a very good original material and are just undiscovered because it's just the lack of knowing how to put that second piece together. Because like it's like a lack of either promotion, like knowing how to, like, who to go to, where to go to, maybe like networking. Like it's you have to be like Sean said, you have to be both parts now. Like you have to, because you just have to but you also, the other thing I was thinking of is you have to also be honest with yourself too, because if you're gonna take that independent route, because it takes investment too, like monetary, like it's as much as it's like you think like, oh, it's a great idea, I'm gonna post a TikTok or a YouTube video and have it blow up. It doesn't work like that. Like you have to kind of know how to work it. You kind of know like if you want to put ads out, it's such a different experience now.
I think the dues that are being paid today are just different, and that's they're no less painful than they were back then. The competition, I think there may be just about the same amount of competition, but they're spread out differently. So it's not like Laurel Canyon in LA where you had all these incredible artists living in there, Crosby, Stills, and all.
But their competition, those competitions were all like out there. Meaning,
that's what I'm
right
saying.
now, they're here. They're not like.
But if you look at the number wise, you could say we can sit here and name 100 groups that we can think of during that time that were doing really well. 100. Today, you can go on TikTok and you probably can find thousands and thousands of artists that have a pretty decent number, but are relying on that as their art, as their reach. Whereas the live performance is going to come back at some point. People are going to want to see live music. So the paying your dues is sort of like adding the social media was just added onto it. I don't think it's any different than it was than the dues were paid. I think something else was just added. Back then you had, all right, guys, let's go around here. We got to put what isn't that what we did? We would go to the club. We would bring a poster. They'll put it on the window. We would do mail. We would actually mail postcards. That's how old we are. We would actually mail postcards to people. And then when email came, early email, that was like a big thing as well. Whatever comes that we could actually use to let people know where we're going to be and what kind of stuff, then that's what we have to utilize, and learning it can be annoying for some artists. And I think that's where a lot of them, like Doug said, they're not being heard because they don't know how to do it. They don't want to spend time on YouTube and watching a training, a webinar on how to.
But isn't that part of paying your dues though? Exactly.
That's my point. But just like in the 60s and 70s, there are bands out there that didn't want to go to that writer session. They didn't want to go, how many artists or how many people said they were going to go to Woodstock and didn't go to Woodstock? It's just another concert. You know what I mean? It's like it happened. A lot of people didn't, so I think that the paying of the dues are there. I think it's just slightly different the way it's structured today. Everything people, we're still playing the same chords that we played back then. We're still recording music, at a much higher quality level today at somebody's house than we were back then. But the difference is that back then there was somebody that had a lot of money that came in and said, we're going to record you. And, Janis Joplin, who was founded by Clive Davis, right? He went into this club. He heard this voice. She was singing with the group and he was blown away. He pulls her out and starts recording her. And everyone else, Whitney Houston. This is a human that went out and saw something and then brought it in and developed it. Look at Whitney Houston when she was 19 or 16, 17 years old singing.
Right.
She was not, she was a great singer, but she was terrified. She was like, singing like very, very nervous. You know what I mean? Why? But if that was today, if Whitney Houston came out today and was on a TikTok singing like that, they're going to say, oh, she doesn't have star quality. She doesn't have it, and she would be brushed off,
Right.
So that to me is a major issue with, I won't call it a problem, but I'll definitely call it a issue with the whole social media, the way it's being utilized. It's a tool. It's not your career.
I agree. And it's been a hard balance to try to have to. Good night. See you later. No, it's just hard to have to think of yourself because it's kind of like putting. Like, it's one thing to set up a camera and like do something like this where we're just talking to each other, but it's another thing to like try to promote an image where it's not based on getting on the stage and doing your thing and like having the work speak for itself in a way.
Yeah, and you think about, and I was talking to somebody about this. If Jimi Hendrix was around today, is he going to do social media? I mean, we've all seen documentaries on Jimi Hendrix, right? The guy did not really pay attention to much things. This guy who signed contracts with record companies and then would leave the country.
Yeah.
And people would be like, where'd you go?
Yeah.
I went over to England. So there are some, Janis Joplin is not going to do it. The Doors, Jim Morrison is not going to go out there and he's not going to be on social media promoting. They just wasn't part of, so how many artists, Kurt Cobain, probably one of the most recent guys, just missed social media by maybe 10 years or so. But, Kurt Cobain is probably not going to go on Instagram. I just don't see it. Maybe his record company will, or somebody will do it for him, but I don't think he's going to actually do it, especially if they're unknown. So that's where the concern lies, is how many artists out there. And I'm glad we have Sean and Tommy and Doug that are seeing the value in what the current tool to promote is. That's all it is. It's a tool to promote whatever it is you have. But how many artists are out there that are brilliant? And unfortunately, we're never going to hear them because they're just, I don't want. I've had people, I know great singers, and I had one guy, and you know who he is, George, who told me, he's like, nah, I have somebody doing that for me. And social media, it's social. This is why it's a thing now. They want to see you. For whatever reason, people want to see people doing their thing. They don't want to see a corporate logo and a bunch of stills, of you in very high quality. You know what I mean? It's like if Beyonce is out there with her phone in her kitchen talking to people, that means that it's a valuable thing to do.
Yeah.
If Beyonce is doing it, she needs to do nothing, right? She is Beyonce, right? And all those guys, they're still out doing it because they see the value in it. They're connecting with an audience, right? So that's my biggest thing. And, I use this as an education to younger musicians, or not even younger musicians, just musicians in general, that want to create something, a platform for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, Sean, talk a little bit about that. What would you say to somebody out there? You seem to have put together, you're like the mastermind behind the BreakTime, because you put together the band, you write the songs, you kind of like arrange the rehearsals and run things and stuff like that, and you're doing the social media. You put all in. You did an LLC for your company, so you're consciously doing things that are going to benefit the band in the future. What advice would you give to somebody out there that's starting a band or already in a band?
I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. You can't approach this with a myopic view. So do not say, oh, I don't do this, oh, I don't do that, that's not me, that will never be me. Say yes more times than you will say no, but also know your worth, know who you are, and use all of the tools that you have at your disposal with effective efficiency to reach your self-actualization. Whatever your self-actualization goal is, use everything you can, do it effectively, do it efficiently, and do it with a plan, and then actually do it, make it happen.
Yeah, it's got a whole tape there that you can do. Get my new Sean Manuel tape.
And if you want motivation, we post a morning mantra every day.
Nice.
From around 11 to 1. We try to do 11, but it's been more like 1 o'clock lately, so it's more like an afternoon mantra.
Afternoon mantra, yeah.
But
good morning.
Go
It's
follow
1
us at
p.m.
BreakTime Live NJ for a ton of laughs and uplifting content.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. I want to actually turn over to you guys on your final thoughts here on Break Time, and of course, you guys are going to come back, and we'll do this again, in the future. But what's your final thought?
Final words, Tam Tam?
Man. Well, great time. It's a great time. That's all I gotta say.
There you go.
Short and to the
Great
point.
time. It's a great time.
What do you got to say, Doug?
No, I think having conversations like this is awesome. It's big. It's bigger than even just the 5 of us here. It's bigger than us. There's a whole world out there. Like, we're just trying. Every day is to learn. Every day is a chance to learn from whatever. Just
Absolutely.
We just have to keep our. We all have our goals. We all like Sean said, like, have a plan. Like, we all have our goals, and every day is a day to work towards it. So.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, guys, hang tight. We're gonna say good night. We appreciate you so much for taking the time to come out here. We love the energy you guys have and appreciate it. So please come back again. And break time is a great time, and I think they proved it.
Great time. A great time at BreakTime Live NJ. BreakTimeLiveNJ.com.
Yep, that's all in the description below.
Focus.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Rock on.
Awesome guys. And that's what I was telling you about how well their heads are on. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I mean, I think you and I kind of had a little bit of that. I think it was harder to get to maybe influence others as much as we were influenced during those early days. Definitely. But and we didn't have social media and all the tools and stuff like that. But still, you get this idea that they're building something that they know, especially Sean, because he's kind of like the mastermind. I think he's an alien. But
there's always one in those.
There's always one alien. You gotta have an alien in the group. But he really has his head on right, and he knows exactly what he wants, and he's doing something that's really special. And I'm grateful that we were able to, since 2019, that I was able to show him on here. And we did a thing called Music Makers, which was I think you were on that, George. And I would love to even start something like that again at some point. But it's just a great opportunity to really talk to somebody who really is doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So,
I agree.
Cool. All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We will see you all again next week, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here for Counterparts. George Batista, John Henry Soto. See you next week. And as always,